Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Bushka on Blitz. As always, we're here to talk tanks. And today we're going to tank to talk about. We're going to talk about the STI, the T9 Russian heavy tank. The second line of Russian T9 heavy tanks that ends in the IS-4. This is the penultimate tank, meaning the one before the last. The IS-7 is the end of the other line, and whereas the IS-7 is meant to be the more manoeuvrable, the lighter armoured and all that kind of thing, as is typical of the gameplay and the game variations of this wonderful little thing called Blitz. Don't believe everything you read in the blurb. Both the lines are outstanding lines, however, and this tank in particular is very dear and near to my heart. Now, it's quite similar to the E75. I want to get that out of the way straight away. If you can play the E75, you will be able to play the STI. When I got this tank, I originally had some issues with it. I was actually grinding up this line to play the KV4, you know, and okay, let's have a look here at my service record at the old Ruskies. Here we go. So, KV1, KV3, T150 will be in there somewhere. There we go, T150, 72%. Only 37 games, though. I wouldn't read too much on that. KV3, 79%, 69 games. You won't find the KV4 because I sold it. I hated the thing. I got enough XP to get through to the STI and I got rid of it. And I don't understand why I didn't like it, because the STI is very, very similar. And I've got 186 games at 64% in this thing. So, I don't know what's up with you, Bushka, but I guess this tank has two things going for it that the KV4 didn't have going for it. One is it's got a lower profile. And second thing is it's got a much better turret. A much, much better turret. The turret on this thing is positively Tier 8 American. It's much like the T32 or the T34 for that matter. It's the kind of turret that you can rely on against any tank in the game. That includes the big Tier 10 tank destroyers. If you get this thing over a berm, going hull down, happy days. You're going to be a winner. And it couples that turret with the ability to sidescrape like a boss. Now, I said it's like the E75. It is. The E75 has a very good turret, but it has flat spots around the front of that turret. You can pen. Now, it's a harder to hit hatch, I think, but not much. Like you can see the hatch on this thing, it's no walk up to just smash one into that, especially not if it's moving, it's at range or it's swiveling around. The E75, though, does have the ability to angle in open ground, and you can see how steep that lower front glacis is. It's a real knife point, whereas with the STI, it's a lot flatter, the lower frontal glacis, and that's your big weak spot. Now, we're going to have a look at the armour profile on this tank, and that'll explain a lot about how we play it. You play your tank to your strengths. Now, this tank has a lovely bit of alpha. It's got a lovely bit of side scraping and a big, big, strong turret. So we want to play it as a tank we're angling off buildings or going hull down with, and we're going to peek-a-boom with it. Now, peek-a-boom, for those of you that don't know, is just like it sounds. You peek out, you boom at your enemy, throw a shell his way, hit your target, hopefully, then you pull back till your reload's ready to go, giving them nothing to fire at. And this tank can peek-a-boom in a variety of different ways. It can legitimately hull down, even against Tier 10 tanks, and it can legitimately side-scrape even against Tier 10 tanks. And something else this tank is really good at is face-hugging. You can face-hug tanks like E100s in a pinch. You don't want to be face-hugging E100s. They can put HE into your top of your turret, but it's much better to be face-hugging them than being in the open field, 20 metres in front of them where they can just bang away at you. You can face hug E75s, you can face hug IS3s and things like that. They hate it. Because if you can hide that lower frontal glacis where your weak spot really is, the rest of it is really bouncy. Like your turret's super strong, yeah, anyway, we'll have a look at the Armour Profile. We'll talk about mobility too, because although it does have a 40km/h top speed, it suffers from the curse of the heavy tank everywhere, in that it turns and traverses very, very slowly. And we'll compare it to its peers. We'll compare the gun to its peers, the other Tier 9 heavies that we have here, and basically come out with a conclusion onto whether you should be driving this monster or not, whether you should aim for it or not. And one little thing here, just so you know, the gun on this, like a lot of the Tier 9 heavies, is exactly the same gun as you'll get on the IS-4, except on the IS-4, the weapon has a lower aiming time and a higher rate of fire, but the same penetration values, the same dispersion, and all those kind of things. It's also the same gun as is on the IS-8, but the IS-8 gets a slightly higher rate of fire. It's got 5.16 rounds per minute, whereas you receive a weapon that is at 4.77 rounds per minute. Now, I said that the E75 is the most like this tank in terms of the side-scraping ability and some of its assets like the hull and all that kind of thing, and the turret. It's also very similar in terms of weaponry. A .38 dispersion, which is the same as the IS-8's gun. 420, nice big alpha on this. The IS-8 has 460. 4.77 rounds per minute, and the IS-8's slightly less than that. And actually the IS-8, not the IS-8, the E75, sorry. The E75 has worse penetration values, but it does have APCR as its gold ammo. Now, I prefer APCR as gold ammo, because although it's not as good against plate or something along those lines, it doesn't normalise like heat does. What it does do is fire through the skirts and spaced armour of other tanks, and you don't have to worry about switching out to AP so that you don't get stuck with heat rounds on an IS-7, for instance, or an E100 or a mouse. APCR is a lot nicer for that, or AP, if you have to fire something that's not gold. All right, so the weapon itself, good alpha, excellent alpha, 420. So it suits your purposes. It's going to have a good juicy alpha. 420 will make someone wake up any time. Its dispersion is 0.38, which is actually good for a Russian tank. And it's good for a tank that's as strong as this with an armour profile like this. Plus, you're going to be doing an awful lot of wet work in this tank. You're going to be getting bloody. You're going to be getting your hands wet up close and personal, where you're side scraping and face hugging and going hull down. And at those ranges, quite often 0.38 won't be an issue, because the target is bigger than a barn in front of you. The thing that will hurt you is the aim time of 3.4 seconds. 3.4 seconds is a very high aim time. It goes down to 2.9 on the Tier 10 version of the weapon, but unfortunately for us at Tier 9, 3.4, real killer. That affects it severely in terms of sniping. You do have to be very patient and let the reticle get back to its smallest point, and then it's relatively accurate. But it's certainly I wouldn't recommend it as a cross-map sniper weapon. And sometimes if you're in a rush, you don't have time to let the reticle get small, and it can have detrimental effects. The weapon actually severely affects my equipment choice, and we might be going about this in a roundabout fashion, but I run gun rammer, as everyone should, on just about every bloody tank. I can't think of a reason you don't want to fire the gun faster. But I also run toolbox, because mobility is really key on this tank. You don't have a lot of it. You can't afford to be immobile. People can get past you very early in the piece, and once they're past you, you will struggle tremendously to get them in front of you again if you don't have someone around to give you a hand. So toolbox at plus 25% repair speed can be a lifesaver. Obviously, I have my repair perks at the top as well, so we basically cut our repair times in half on dead tracks with this tank. Then you come down to vents or gun lane drive. Now, I went with gun lane drive because I struggle to handle 3.4 seconds of aim time. It's just too much for me. It's much like the IS-7, where I actually run gun lane drive and vents, because the aim time is just absolutely brutal at Tier 10. But 10% off gives you a 0.30 second aim time, basically, as opposed to a 0.34. And that's a big, big factor with this tank. That extra half a second nearly of aim time is intense. It will be the difference between getting some shots in and not getting those shots in at all. Once you once you've had to play with this tank for a while and you've suckered yourself at that 3.4 second aim time, you may well think differently. Obviously, vents is going to help with aim time, but it just doesn't give you the huge slab reduction that you get with this. Now, I could easily see myself rolling vents in this tank and being successful, but again, my personal preference is enhanced gun lane drive. But I'm sure you run vents, you run them happy. But I would not go away without a toolbox in this tank. Absolutely a must-have as far as I'm concerned. So that's the gun. Let's have a look at the Armour Profile. Here we have it, the STI. Look at that. Lovely basic model. Let's have a look at the collision model. Now, none of the numbers here are astounding. 160 millimeters on that lower front glacis, 140 on your upper, 220, which is pretty solid around the sides and the cheeks of the hull of the turret there. Your side armor is only 140 millimeters, and in a bit of a surprise for Russian tanks, you don't have much in the way of spaced armor at all. You can see that's it. Around your gun mantle is all the spaced armor you're going to have. You do have some very, very interesting angles, however. Let's go and have a look at the armor penetration model here. Now, we're using the same gun that you have here on your tank, the 122mm M62T2. We're using the actual IS-8 version of it, but it's the same gun. Distance 100 meters. Now, you can see there, if you ever drive this tank, for God's sakes, don't drive straight at people like that. You're just a numpty. If you drive straight at people, you'll have huge, big green holes in the middle of your armor profile. They can't miss you there, okay? But you angle it slightly, you turn your turret to the side, so you never drive straight. You're driving slightly across the ground, and the tank becomes a much harder proposition to hit. You can see there, unlike a lot of Russian tanks, you get -8 degrees of gun depression. Now that's key because this tank has an absolutely brilliant hull, brilliant turret. You can see from front on, that's effective armor of 444 millimeters. Just 400s, 300s, you're getting more pen than you can poke a stick at. No one's going through the front of that turret. It's just absolutely brilliant. And your side armor there is really strong as well. So you can afford to go hull down with this tank and use that gun depression to fire over the top. And that's something you can't really do in a lot of Russian tanks. They don't have a turret that you can actually... The turrets are usually pretty strong, even on your mediums, but they just don't have the gun depression to get across and utilize that and exploit it. And it's very much like an American tank in that respect, except your hull armor is really great too. Now, you've got weaknesses on your hull armor. They call this, or Pimp Daddy, mate of mine, good mate of mine, he calls this his bouncy castle because it's just bloody angles everywhere. It's like an IS-6. Things bounce off this all over the place. And the armor profile, as you turn it, changes your weak points and your strong points. Now, that means that if you're angled at an enemy and you're looking at like that, you'll see you've got a big... But if you're moving your tank across, backwards and forwards like that, and they can't see that lower front glacis, then it becomes very hard to effectively pick a shot that's not going to bounce. Now, you want to be side scraping with this tank. Now, you'll see plenty of it in the gameplay, but you can see when you've got your turret, your tank only slightly angled towards the enemy, and that lower front glacis isn't visible, and all I can see is the side of the turret, and all that red stuff there on the side of your tank and tracks. It's a fortress. It really is, and it's a hell of a lot of fun to play like this. You can hold flanks down with this tank and just soak up punishment like an absolute boss. And it's one of my most favourite tanks to play at the present. It's been one of my most enjoyable grinds too. I was crap at this at the start, and the thing that improved me most was both the gun and the engine. You've got to have a little bit more mobility, and you've also got to learn how to not overextend the tank, because the tank will encourage you to try and be a bully. But it really is a David versus Goliath situation where if you go in there and try and be a bully with his armor profile, people will just go past you, and then you turn into a sea of green, and they can put shells in you all day long. So you want to make sure that you can keep people in front of you, and that means not overextending on flanks, and making sure that you don't just go down the middle where people can shoot you from either side. So you've got to always be careful and try and make sure you've got armour. But I mean, that's situational awareness and map awareness, and that's a skill that you should be learning now as you go through the game. And you should always be careful about what you've got on either flank. Do you have a friend or a foe on your flank? And a friend can be anything from another tank covering you to a rock that's going to stop you from being hit. And a foe can be just a tank that's going to plough one into your guts. So this tank, strong side scraper, strong hull down, a lot of red in the armour profile. Of course, if they go to heat, it becomes a difficult proposition. But even then, you can still side scrape very, very effectively. You can see there. And pop out and put shells into people. You've just got to make sure you hide that front glacis at all times. Right, mobility, 40 kilometres an hour in a straight line. You won't do it very often, but I run an engine boost on this tank so that I can do it at the start of matches when needed. Basically, it's the kind of tank that, a lot like the IS-7, where you can be an assault tank, you can push hard, get to a choke point first using that straight line speed, and then hold it, because you're a bugger to dislodge. With all this armour and side scraping ability and hull down ability, you can pump out damage and take big hits while the rest of the team, uses you to focus fire behind. It's very limited in terms of traverse. You don't want to get caught in the open field. You've got 20 degrees of traverse and 16 degrees of turret traverse. Nearly identical to the E75, which has 19 degrees of traverse and 16 degrees of turret traverse, and also does 40 kilometres an hour. So if you can play an E75, you'll play this tank off a break. You'll love it. If you want a mobile heavy, you've got the IS-8 or the M103. They both have excellent traverse numbers for heavies and a pretty good power to weight ratios. The M103 particularly, I think, is very nice like that. It can keep mediums in front of it with its traverse, and that's all you really want to be able to do in a heavy tank. So you've listened to me dribble on about this STI. I carried on like a pork chop. You should know by now that I'm a boring old bastard. So why don't we go and have a look at some gameplay? Hopefully that'll keep you entertained for a bit, and I'll talk you through that as well. I'm Bushka on Blitz. Thanks very much for watching, and let's go and rock and roll. Now you can see 3 ag tigers. I see that, and I already know exactly what I'm doing in this game. Now we're not going to watch the whole of this game. We're just going to really look at an example of two things: the assault tank style and being aggressive and side scraping in front of multiple enemies. Now I've dropped the hammer here. I want to get to the corner up here, and I want to actually, once I get to that corner, I want to turn around and get my angle set so that whatever happens, because these 3 tank destroyers, if they are sitting up the back and sitting at the top of the street waiting for us, we could be in all kinds of trouble as people try and get through. So we're now in a strong position. The left-hand side, the left-hand flank, it can hurt me, but there's enough tanks around me that I'm pretty confident if someone does pop along the left, they'll still receive effective fire from the guys around me. And there we go. Someone is going to track him. I angle my tank, take it on the track. This is why you never come out at a straight angle like that. Look at it. He's been tracked again twice. Now, we've not got the fastest reload in the world, but we're going to get the opportunity to put 2 into him and finish him off. Never come out at a straight angle, ladies and gentlemen. Always come out side on. Now we're going to push through here. You can see we're side on, and because of that we're going to bounce one on the way over. We're going to keep our tracks and the front of our tank angled at our enemy, even while we turn around and take that IS out. And we're going to do what I call an aggressive manoeuvre. We're going to use the body of this KV-4. It's going to cost us 2 shots to get set up. But once we're set up, we are going to absolutely ruin the day of these two. We're just losing tracks and things like that, and they can't hit us now. We are absolutely perfectly set up for a side scrape, and when they shoot, we pop out and hit them. And we move in, just moving backwards and forwards, wait for him to fire around, If he shoots, he's going to cop another one. There he goes, he shot. That's another one down. We've completely nullified these two Tier 9 tank destroyers by being aggressive and utilising our tank, like an assault tank. We've put ourselves in harm's way, but we've kept all their attention. They can't turn around from us. It's such a great tank for that. We're going to move on now, because we won this one pretty easily. Agon was cleaning up, I was cleaning up. And we're going to have a look at another fight, this time on Fort Despair. Now you'll see here, this is a Tier 10 game. They've got an E100, an IS-8, Jag Tiger, an E50M. We've got 3 mediums up the top of our tree. 3 Tier 10 mediums. An IS-8 and I are our Tier 9 heavies. Now I know that E100, Wing K, is probably going to be coming down this one channel here on our left. I know our mediums are going to be flanking, but that's okay. This tank is more than strong enough to tank in Tier 10 games, to take damage and sidescrape in Tier 10 games. Now I'm going to tell this IS-8 when he gets up here just to slow down, and he doesn't need much help for all that. KCF Bay, he knows what he's doing, or he seems to know what he's doing, because he puts himself in a really good position to support my move here. We've got a lovely bit of hull down. There's a Tiger down there. So we've got a lovely bit of hull down to fire over. We've got a strong position to sidescrape on if necessary, and all the targets are going to be coming towards us. And there's the IS-8. There's our IS-8. Now we're going to move out here. We're still keeping our angles. You can see we're just going to bounce stuff there and put shells into the front of targets. This is what makes this tank so effective. It can side scrape and it can hull down and do both of them really comfortably. Now we bounce that one. We're using AP still. There's the E100. That's the guy we were waiting for. We're bouncing that Tiger too. And he looks like he's got the upgraded turret there, so he should have the upgraded gun. So these are legitimate bounces. If he's firing gold, I don't think he is. We're going for his lower glacis and we nail him. Now we don't have to worry about that Tiger 2 anymore, and there doesn't seem to be much else behind us. Don't know where the Jag Tiger is, but the E100 and the IS-8 are our worries. Then we're hull down, so we're over the top. Look at that. There's the Jag Tiger now. That IS-8's pushing up. I'm more worried about this E100 than anything, but I've got a shot on that Jag Tiger and I can support my teammate, so I'm going to try and take it, just no good. There's that E100. The IS-8's been dusted. So despite the fact that they certainly have some solid tanks here, we're touching them up. The mediums on the flank are rolling, and we've held serve here very, very successfully. This E100 is going to want to pump on down here. We've got heat loaded now, and again, we're hull down. He can't fire effectively into our frontal lower glacis. So what we're going to do now is face hug an E100, a Tier 10 monster tank, and put heat rounds into the flat cheeks of the tank, and all he can really get to is our super strong turret. Now he's going to try and hit. You can try and hit the hatches, but it's a very hard thing if you're moving around and you've got other fire coming in your way. You can see how strong this tank is. It's a Tier 10 game, and it just held the line there like an absolute boss. And it's something you can do very, very successfully in this vehicle. Here we are in mines. Now, look at this. I'm counting mediums. Talking to myself, I love hearing these things. Okay, and we're off. Now, we're here with Pimp Daddy. He's in his T30. He's got the big gun on that thing, that Tier 9 tank destroyer, turreted tank destroyer. There's 2 mediums on our team. A T54 is going to roll up there and contest hill, which makes me feel happy already. They've got a Centurion 7 Mark 1, which is probably not the best tank for this kind of situation. Still in all, it is a medium, and you'd expect him to contest hill with the T54. Pimp and I are both pushing hard, as you know, this map is key, and this is why I love turbo on this tank. The power boost is really important. My Pimp's got his fat ass in the middle of the screen, and he's not going to give me a shot. I'm just trying to get across here so I can support that T54. And there's a rock there to side scrape off. we can very comfortably help and put damage. I want to make sure of this shot, and we do so into the IS-8. The T-54 has done the right thing there. He's pushed to hold hill. We just haven't gotten there quite in time, and he's taken a little bit more damage than we would have liked. That IS-8 gets a little bit of support from the rest of his team. Engine fire, and unfortunately Dream I-79 gets dusted. Now he did the right thing though, and he nearly fought that IS-8 to a standstill. But here we are. We've pushed up the hill. We're side scraping off this, and we are absolutely in a lovely position here. They've got no tank destroyers to worry about, so I'm just moving backwards and forwards here. Don't have to worry about the big Alpha coming from the right-hand side. I can see that on the left down there, that SU-152 is in trouble. I just want to make sure that we've got everything taken care of here before we get in any more strife. So I'm going to push forward and really take it to this Centurion. Pimp does the same thing there. Now I could have hung around here for the Conqueror, but that IS-8, you never want a tank on that hill behind you. It will come back and haunt you. While I'm going up there though, I'm going to turn around so that I can get a shot at the Conqueror, and then I'll continue on my merry way and leave him for Pimp to polish off. Now, a very strong tank this, and it can't be, it's the ability to hull down and side scrape that makes it so fantastic. And its alpha is more than adequate for this peek-a-boom kind of stuff where you only need that one shot. And this is very much a routine flogging we're giving these guys here. Just shot after shot going in, utilising the strengths of the tank, making sure that you're picking the right targets, leaving that Black Prince alone and going straight for the tough stuff. Find a rock, set yourself up, move into the next phase of your life, which is to start side scraping. And that's the beauty of this tank. There's the other STI. Now you can see here we're going for that lower glacis, and all they can really get a shot on is the hull, whereas he's in the open field. And that hit the dirt. I honestly think that hit the ground in front of him, but we won't worry about it too much. But you can see I'm bouncing all kinds of shots because this tank's brilliant for it. You just side scrape, hull down. It's absolutely fantastic. Now this is a big bug in this game. Look at this. See it hit the thing? I don't know why it does it. Sometimes it just locks onto the rock or this obstacle in front of you, and it's really frustrating. But there we go. We finish off the STI. Just an absolute gem of a tank. So strong. Such a good support tank too. And I'm singing away. Happy days. Here we are on Castilla now. I am aggressive in this tank. I'll make no bones about it. And I run engine boost for a reason. We are going to go to the spot that absolutely puts all kinds of issues into enemy formations. If you pump out hard and you can do your 40 kilometers an hour and you get over here, you can see they all want to come down unopposed down this right-hand flank or their left-hand flank. We can side scrape off this area here. We can go semi-hull down off the side of the hill. They haven't pushed up hard on my right-hand flank. They're giving me the opportunity to just sit here and trade shots with a tier 7 heavy, and that's never going to end well for him. It's really not. They're still not pushed up, so I've got no one on my flank. I've got a couple of tanks up there. Why not push forward? It's that kind of tank. And you're going to see here the angling you can do on this tank. The ability the tank has to just absolutely bounce shots, and this is why it's called the bouncy castle. Not terribly quick, but there's all kinds of enemies in front of me. A Tiger 2, a Conqueror, a T-25 anti-tank. He's going to cop it. We're angling for him. He's only a tier 7, but he's got a tank destroyer gun. So he gets decent penetration values on that, and if he's firing gold, it can be a struggle. Always angling, always moving. It's a bit of a dream shot. Trying to shoot the top of tanks and that with this gun is never that easy, but he angles enough so that we get a nice flat shot at it. Now the Conqueror is coming down. He realises he's got to be doing something, but he can't get a good shot at us. We're not going to waste around. You've got to be patient. Unless you can see a good shot, don't take it. We had his lower glacis there. We've still yet to take any damage here, and we're just bouncing people left and right. The Tiger's going to actually get pushed. He's frustrated, and he pays a penalty for frustration. This same with his T25. He's at all kinds of sorts. He saw the Tiger get brave and thought he'd have a crack, and now he's absolutely screwed. And the Conqueror never supported him. He stayed back. He's penned on both sides, and all we've got to do is roll on up. You can see that's a graveyard there. We've just nailed 3 tanks and taken all their hit points. If you can keep your enemies in front of you and you're not dealing with the right kind of tanks, you can just bully stuff. That's exactly what we're doing there. Now I've fast forwarded this obviously because the last thing you need to see is me rolling along at 20 kilometres an hour for the next few minutes. But basically there's just the 2 of these guys left. Now I think that passage of play illustrated something about this tank that can't be overstated. Its armour profile lets it bully lesser tanks. Now that's not always the case. Tanks that rely on agility and you know a nimble mobility profile with a lot of traverse and speed and a really good gun handling, they can do things from range and they can certainly circle of death tanks, but they can't just be the hammer when sometimes that's all you need. And that's what this tank can do really well. You saw it stand up to on Fort Despair onto an E100 and some bigger tanks, and you can certainly see there where it runs into tier 7.8s, and even that Conqueror was a 9, but he didn't really have the kind of armour profile to match it with us. It can really push hard and destroy enemy front lines. If you can angle it correctly, you can make a lot of leeway, and you can make a lot of headway on formations like that. There was 4 tanks there, but none of them, I didn't feel that any of them could really trouble me if I angled the tank correctly. And as such, we got to have our own way. And that's that whole peek-a-boom style, that big 420 alpha when you need it, with good penetration values, and the ability both to hull down with that turret doing all the work and to side scrape, especially at an angle like that, because if they're uphill of you and they don't have the gun depression, they have to expose themselves to actually take shots at you, or all they're really shooting at is your turret. And if they can't expose themselves without copping 400 between the eyeballs, then quite often they don't. And timid play leads to a timid result more often than not. And here we go, we're just the insurance here, because obviously that T25 is going to get there and pump the T43 who's AFK before we can do anything. So why don't we just cap it out in case he comes back and drives off or kills the T25 AT. And that's really where this tank's at. It's a bully. And there's nothing wrong with that. Some tanks, you can do that in it. Like this and an E75, very similar play styles, although I like the low profile on this tank. For all that it has a big turret, it doesn't have a very tall turret. You can see the M103's wreck in front of us. It's actually slightly taller than we are, and a bit higher in the stirrups. We're very flat-topped, very low chassis, like most of the Russian heavy tanks at tier 9 and 10. You've got a really low chassis. You hug the ground. You can hide this chassis behind berms and small undulations in the ground very comfortably. So we get our mastery badge there, Top Gun. We got our 5 kills and a steel wall, obviously, and surprisingly we got sniper. Now you'll get sniper in heavy tanks all the time, just because you're shooting at people that are only about 5 feet away. Now, Jamiroquai, my very good mate, is in this game on the opposition and he's E75, so I know we're going to be up against it. But drop the hammer. The turbo engine boost, as always in this tank, I am hunting for a strong point, and in this map, on this map particularly, the strong point is the second bunker. The communal bunker, each side has its own bunker to hide behind there, but the middle bunker is up for grabs. And if no one pushes forward and gets me in the side as I'm pushing here, then I get to have a field day. Have a look at this. Now this poor Tiger 2's moved up. He wants to take it easy behind that hill. But that's the strength of this tank. I'm now hull down and re-camoing here. So not only have I got a turret that can comfortably handle getting hit over the top of this concrete wall, I'm actually also invisible for the most part. There's no one up there spotting me by being next to the bunker. There you go, we just cop it on the top of the turret and return one through the middle of his upper glacis. And you'll see often when you're on this bunker here and you're withdrawing and moving back, a light bulb will go off showing that you've been spotted again. That's because, there it is, behind those trees and bushes, and behind this bunker you're invisible and there's no one close enough to spot you via proximity. If you're obviously close enough to the enemy, you will be spotted. Now my good mate Jamiroquai is down the bottom there. That TXT Ranissu has just pushed up for no real reason, and Jamo's going to dust him. And the M103 then goes on and on and on about what a bunch of crap this team is. All those kind of things when he gets killed. Anyway, here we go again. We're just repeating the dose. And this looked like it would be a really easy win, apart from the fact that Jamo's on their team and he does his level best to carry him, because we are just getting free shots here. Now we've gone from a really strong hull down position, and this is the beauty of this tank. It's a two-way player. We've now in a very strong side scraping position. Look at that. So now all they can see is the very acute angle of the side armour of this tank. I'm watching here, and the guys behind me, they're just, unfortunately, they're getting dusted up here. And this T-54 and the Comet, they're all pushing forward. They're starting to pressure us, and they've evened the scales up. And the 103 has not stopped carrying on like an idiot ever since he died of being foolish. The Persian's going to finish off my IS, and now we're only up by a tank, which is a surprise considering how much we've been pumping out here. But Jamo's obviously been doing his best down there on the flank, so we're going to push hard here. So I want to get rid of this T-54. I don't want him hanging around. He's really important to their team. The Pershing's behind me, and the E75 Jamo's driving is the last one left. And this 103 is still not shut up. Look at him. My team is all pigs. What a rude idiot. I think I'm going okay, I tell you. So we've killed 4 and we've done an absolute cubic arse load of damage, and the M103 hasn't shut up. So now he wants to know my win rate. Like, honestly, he's probably driven 300 games in an IS or something. Check scoreboard, big shot, as in you're dead, and I've got 4 kills. And there we go, finish off Jamiroquai. Good job, mate. Always fun playing against you. So a great tank. You can see there, a really interesting tank. You can go hull down, you can go side scrape, you can do all these things, and it will successfully and seemingly without any difference at all in your gameplay go from one to the next. So I highly recommend it. You should be grinding up this line. It's chock full of absolutely brilliant tanks. The T150, the KV1S at the start of the line, the KV1, sorry, at the start of the line, the T150, the KV3, even though I didn't like it terribly. I know that there's a lot of people that swear by the KV4. The STI, and next on the line will be the IS4, which will be very, very interesting to see if that holds up in court. So as always, I'm Bushka on Blitz. Thank you very much for watching. It's been a pleasure to present. If you don't mind subscribing, it'll be much appreciated. Look for me in game as Bushka. Look for me on channels here in the comments section or on the Asian server forums under the English-speaking game discussion section there. Always happy to have a chat. Look forward to seeing you out in the battlefield, and take care.